Feet apart. Parallel feet. Let the tailbone drop straight down. Starting from the feet up, flat feet, soft ankles. Bend your knees and tuck in your hip flexors. Emphasize the inner arch of the legs to control your flat feet. Do them, control it from your hips. So you control here. Come down, drop your weight into the ground. Tailbone into the ground. Now flatten the lower back. To help that, breathe in to the lower back. So you can put your hands on your lower back and you can breathe into the back of your hands. Flatten the lower back and bring it to the front. Sink in, tailbone straight to the ground. Do not tuck it in, don't stick it out. Yeah. Parallel feet, tuck in here, bend the knees just slightly so you get the spring feeling coming down. Flatten the lower back, breathe into your back of your hands, breathe into the back of your hands, flatten that lower back, bring it to the front. So you fill up the whole hara, you fill out the whole hara. Then you can raise the pelvic floor ever so slightly. Pull the perineum up with your muscles, just ever so slightly raise it up. Once again, flatten the lower back, bring it to the front. Pull up the perineum ever so slightly into the upper body, into the spine. Fill out the rib cage. Travel up. Draw open your chest. Separate the arms and move the fingers apart. Stretch horizontally, fingertip to fingertips. Across the chest, feel the chest opening up, expanding, stretching. Flatten the space between the shoulder blades on your upper back. Feel the stretch across the upper back between the hands from fingertip to fingertip. If you need to move your arms slightly forward, you feel the stretch across the back, flatten the space between the shoulder blades. Opening the chest in front, feel the stretch across the chest. Lower the elbows, lower the shoulders, keep stretching out, keep stretching out. And return to the feet, flat feet, knees, hips, tailbone straight down. Fill out, breathe into the lower back. Pull up the perineum. That means lift the pelvic floor. Fill out the rib cage and stretch the arms out. Keep pulling them apart, keep pulling them apart, keep pulling them apart. Raise the head from the crown of the head. Slightly twist the arms in opposite directions. So make a long twist one way and rotate along the axis of the arms, opposite directions, slowly. Keep stretching out as you do that. Rotate that away as much as you can. Drop the elbows, drop the shoulders, drop the hands. Shake free. Once again, feet flat on the ground, knees unlocked, hips slightly, you sit down slightly on the bar stool. You pull up the perineum, you fill out the back, lower back, pull up the perineum, seal the spine, come out through the hands all the way out. Now you bring the hands down, you can keep the stretch through the arms. Keep the fingers extended. Gently stretch, so you feel the stretch in all the fingers. As you extend them out and as you opening the wrist, you can feel them floating up. And as they float up, they just continue all the way up. Palms are facing each other and bring the palms together. I'm going to move back so you can see. Bring the palms together and stretch upwards. So even to the point where you can come off your heels. So you're stretching up, looking up, opening the chest, keep stretching up. You can come down on your heels, keep stretching up and dropping down. Legs are strong, fingers are strong, keep stretching, keep stretching. Like you have two spears, one from each leg, coming together in a point. Strongly sat on the ground, piercing the sky above. Release the hands, drop the shoulders, drop the shoulders, drop the elbows, and then drop the hands in the hand. Keep the fingers extended. Keep the fingers extended. Start again. Starting from the legs. Inner arch. As if you would sit on a small horse. Come down. As if you would sit on a bar stool. Tailbone goes straight down. Feet are flat on the ground. Hips are stable. Now concentrate on the lower back. Breathe into the lower back and pull up the perineum inside. By that, having a connection from the legs into your torso, coming up through the torso, raise the head and come up. Raise the hands up. Tear the chest open. Come apart, spread apart. Now you're going to turn to the right into Humvee, but keep the stretch that you have now across the chest and you have across the shoulder blades. So as you're coming forward, as you turn to the side, into the Kamai, keep the stretch between the fingertips across the back and across the front. In order to keep the front feeling stretched out, you can imagine hugging a tree. That's going to keep this stretch open. Then when you come around, bring your elbows low and you have the Kamai. Now that would be the same if you hold the sword or if you hold the jaw. Slightly changing the feet depending on what weapon you're using. But the whole horizontal connection is kept though your hands are in front of you. So having the vertical connection from your legs connected with the horizontal connection that you bring together in the kamai. We'll keep the horizontal connection here. Now, if you stand in the hambi or facing position here, we do the same control. Feet flat on the ground, unbuckle the knees, flatten the lower back, breathe into the lower back, fill out your hara, pull up the perineum, come up through the hands, relax the shoulders, drop the shoulders, elbows stays low, relaxed, fingers accentuated. If you don't have the lower back filled out and flattened and in contact, you won't have any power in your hands coming forward. Even if you would have strong legs, support legs, back leg, front leg, never sit frog legs. Aikido has, when we stand in hambi, there's always a back leg and there's a front leg. There's a support leg and there's a give leg. Now, if you fill out the lower back with support of the legs, you will have a lot of strength. You're going to have a lot of connectivity in your hands when you touch someone, or if you need to push something. You need that connection in your lower back into your hands. Now, to accentuate more of the back, you round it off in the lower back. Then you go a little bit higher, and you round it up higher up. And then you want to round it up even higher. So you can do exercises that you're throwing your arms over something and you round off your back. So you feel the stretch by opening the back over. So you can have this round off, lower back, middle back, higher back. And when you come really high up, it's like lifting yourself up here and you breathe in. So when you breathe in, you're being raised up by your back. Now the reverse would be not to break your lower back, but to opening the chest and the front area. So you're opening the front, and here. And at this point, you feel like you're going to be lifted up by the top of your chest. So you're being drawn up here, and you feel the stretch across the front. And then you do the opposite, and you close. You're opening the back, round off the back with the help of the arms. And you feel the stretch from the fingertip all the way around out to the other fingertip. Yeah. And then you're opening the chest, and you're drawn up here. And then you round it off. Keep stretching across the chest, over, and come back. Now we're going to look at the legs. So if you're parallel with the legs like this, first you want to feel the stability that you have just by what I call the penguin walk. But you want to have this stability in the legs as you move from legs to leg. Now, doing the motion from the ball of the foot. So you can move from foot to foot without going 100%. Do not go 100%. So you're slightly over before you return. You're between the feet. So you're easy moving here. Your arms will just naturally hang loose there. Remember that your hips dictates where your shoulders are. So don't move your shoulders independently from your hips. Any movement that happens from the hip. So when you turn here, your shoulder stays on top of your hip. So don't turn the shoulders extra. The shoulder stays just above the hip. So when there's motion, it's in the hip. Let's come up and come up. So you have this strength, and the back comes in, into the hands. Back feels out, expressed through the hands, through the solid body here in balance. Whether you have a weapon or empty hand, it's the same connectivity through the body. From the ground, connected through the pelvic area, the hara, the back, and out through the hands. Whether you have a bokken, jaw, or anything else. Coming back to the motion between the feet. Now we just move back here. So we have this. So when you cannot land, you just want to land very briefly, and you want to have a bounce effect. So you have this bounce, 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 bounce. You want to have this lightness and coming down, and you kind of just momentarily come down and you bounce immediately back. So you have this lightness of motion, whether that would be just stepping or stepping or stepping, 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 or just moving here. And the feeling you want is the slinky feeling over here. So you have the slinky feeling down, down, down. This you can do also wider. Now, if you want to have a turn here, use the hands, extend through the fingers, so you feel the stretch through the arm, through the body, down the leg. So you come around, 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 you come around. You make it bigger. As. Smaller, smaller, smaller. Now we start talking about throwing these things. And now we're talking about the laying down 8 here. Laying down 8. You can see the motion happening, but it's originating in the legs. So we're going here, coming up. We're going here, coming up. We're going here, coming up. Here. And you've seen this exercise when we do the jaw. You've seen this exercise when you do this. Now you can understand that this is not necessarily a jaw exercise. This is a leg, hip exercise that indicates the eternal laying down 8. So that motion indicates the 8 here that we will have in our techniques. Shomenuchi EQ. Shomenuchi EQ. You're coming forward, or you're coming up to Kokyuna again. Forward, 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 coming up to Kokyuna. You can see how that motion originates in everything that we do. This motion originating in the legs, in the hip, is all about that initial connectivity that we gain pull up the perineum. The legs rotates in order to create this. Then you're going to have a good way power transfer up your body and out through the arms into the fingers. But it's all originated from the lower body. Now, if you grab the sword, without the sword, in Hammi, we have this motion back, back and forth, 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 back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. So if I took the sword away, and we are in Hammi, this motion that you see also say doing is originated between the feet. Almost as you pull yourself forward and you have the slinky effect, you slink into the front. You pull the back leg in order to draw yourself back, and you have the slinky effect back. You pull or draw yourself forward, and you have the slinky effect forward. Pull and draw yourself back, and you have the slinky effect back. Slinky forward, slinky back. So this is a leg motion. Don't go 100% on either leg. Stay between the feet. Each knee, each knee, each knee. If I knew how to do my hara, I've been instructed that the hara goes down and the hara goes up. Hara goes down, hara goes up. The back comes up, back comes down. The back and the front work together. I'm indicating with my hands because I'm just a novice at this and I can't do it as properly, and I haven't developed the hara to the extent where I'm very confident about it. But there are many teachers, not many teachers, but there are a few teachers able to do this properly. But I'm just learning it, and I'm finding very helpful the instructions I'm getting. So having that power base here, remember, pull up the perineum, round off the lower back in order to get any kind of power or connectivity in your hands. Legs are strong. Before I continue with sword, I want to say something about that connectivity on the sprung legs, on the pulled perineum, or the flattened and curved, rounded off lower back into your hands. Now, when you feed your legs, they feel strained, but in a very good sense. There's like a guitar string being tuned perfectly. Not stiff, not rigid, and not too loose. So when you pluck it, it should give off like that. So when you remember, when we do these Aikido exercises, when we say massage our legs, or for that matter, our arms. Now I have greater understanding what this is doing. It's your own self-check to see if you have a connected body. Because if you have loose areas, that's going to give in. So if you can fill up here, then it's going to be more full, and it's going to be more full. So this is helping you to detect any slack or any loose areas that is not with your mind consciously stretched. And when we speak about stretching, it's always in two directions, away from each other. Vertical and horizontal, always in polar opposite directions, or diagonal from back to front. Maybe with a twist. This way, always in two directions, so you remain centered in between. So then you have the control. The back has to be with it in order to have that strength with the motion between the feet. Coming back to the Bokken, the cut. First Suburi. Now I want to say two things about this. Don't immediately go here and kind of lose everything here. Remember, lifting the Bokken is itself a motion from the lower body. You come back, you draw back, and your hara is lifting. The hara is lifting the Bokken. Your shoulder blades is pulling down on your back. In effect, it works as a pulley to pull the arms up. So you could imagine grabbing that lever and pull it down, and my arms comes up. Pull that lever down my back. What that represents is my shoulder blade being pulled down. So instead of thinking, I'm going to lift in front, rather, I'm going to lower my shoulder blades, my hara going to come up. And then now hara coming down onto the front, ever so slightly. Back, front, back, front. That's the reason why in first Suburi we only take a very short step. Short step, cut. Short step, cut. Short step, cut. Short step, cut. Now, if you just want to have a loose exercise where you loosen your shoulders up and you want to let it down all the way onto your spine. When you come up, if you have the sword grip, once you come up over your head, you need to open your right hand. Let it slide so the hands slide together. So you're able to bring it down on your back. As you pull it back, your right hand pulls back into place and resettles as you come down into the strike. Come back to Kamai. Never mistake the end of the cut as the Kamai. The end of the cut is horizontal with a slight emphasis on the left hand driving down. Now the Kamai is towards the eyes, stretched out as if you would be pointing something. Never lean it against your body. Reach out. It's active, yeah. It's actively reaching out. It's actively reaching out. Good. When you come up in Yoran Kamai, this is the vertical stretch. Stretching up, heaven, down, earth. So this is in itself an elongated vertical stretch. So if you do this, you cannot lose that important lesson that Jordan Kamai can give you. Now let me walk back a little bit so you can see that stretched out fully. So when I do that, when I lift the Bokken, my shoulder blades go down here. Now I went too far. Here, just here. Now accentuate up and down. Jordan Kamai. And then just drop it. Draw everything back up. Drop it. Come back up. Drop it. Come back up. Drop it. Come back to Kamai. Reach forward. This is active Kamai. It's not sitting still. It's dynamic. Then you come back with your feet together and you have it like this. Don't stick the sword out. Let it come down your side. Can Kamai. Heel, tip. Heel, tip. That's a strike. That's the ski. That's the suppression. The strike comes down heel and it drives in through the tip. Same thing we would do with a showman. Elbow comes down and the sword hand drives in. Remember, the tegatana, the sword hand in Aikido, is not just the hand. It's from the elbow to the tip of the fingers. That's the sword hand. That's the tegatana. It goes elbow, finger. Hilt, tip. Now, even though the left hand drives and pulls, the right hand drives and pushes, to say it in a rough kind of manner. Left hand drives and pulls in. Right hand drives and pushes. So it becomes this scissor effect. It becomes a faster, accelerating cut. Has this quality of reaching forward. It's reaching forward. But with that in mind, you don't want to cut and then reach forward. You don't want to break it into two phases. You don't want to have cut that is 1, 2. You want to bring those two motions together. So the feeling is here. So it kind of lands and it drives up. Lands and drives up. Lands and drives up. Now you can see when we do yokomen or when we do shomen, they start, both of them start from above the head. Shomenuch or yokomen also start from top of the head and then comes out. Now recognize Jordan Kamai. I stretch. Here, Jordan, or a vertical stretch. This is called up. This, Jordan, vertical up. The line is this. The horizontal is this stretch coming back together. Now you have the vertical and you have the horizontal coming together. Second Suburi. When you step back, fold the sword up. Fold the sword up as your weight is being moved back over your back leg. So your sword folds up as your weight is being placed, so you can move the front leg. Once you move the front leg, you shoot the sword up to Jordan, come on. Now, you Jordan Kamai, and you draw yourself forward, and you cut the shoulder. Now, if you do repetitive motions, you can just go back and forth. But if you're looking at the singular sword cut, you can come back to Kamai before you begin again. So you come back in Kamai again. You begin with the legs, once again with the leg. So you're going to pull yourself, you're going to close the left knee and pull yourself back. So you're being drawn back as your center is lowered and your hands are coming up. Makes everything very fast without you having to do it. You coordinate your body. Now you're going to draw and close the left leg again, forward. So you're being drawn forward as you cut down. And the sword lands slightly, if not much before the body comes. Weapons first, body second. John Nevelius said, mind first, sword second, body third. Japanese expression. This motion, which is the in the first Suburi, Ken Suburi, were not featured because we were just featuring the stabilizing of the hips, the stability of the hips, because we just moved the foot slightly back and we dropped it. Come up, drop it. That's the first Suburi. Second Suburi, we're taking a step. So now we are focused much more on the stepping procedure. Draw the leg back and into Jordan, come on. Draw the leg, knee forward. And you will not have any excess forward momentum. You will be planted, balanced as you come forward. As opposed to what I used to do, I used to step back, I used to step forward, and I would be going back and forth like this. But once I start employing my slinky between my feet, and I draw with the help of my knees, my hip joints, and my ankle joints. They are closing and opening, closing and opening. I used to think I'm just going to collapse my back leg and I'm just going to use gravity to bring me back. Now I'm going to collapse the front leg and I'm just going to use gravity to pull me forward. That worked, but it was kind of passive and it was not active. Now, if I draw it and I pull myself, then I have an active engagement that is aligned with gravity. And there's no forward momentum whatsoever. There's nothing moving me forward. I'm planted and my balance is stuck, and I'm stuck on the ground without being rigid. Remember all this stretching and tension. I have found it that in the beginning, maybe I find myself becoming more rigid, but that's just because of me, and I'm very new to this, and I hope over time that I will be able to exert less effort, stiffen up less, and have better control and an easier way to stretch. Now in the beginning, I feel I have to really physically, in one way, do it. I'm still learning from Dan Harden, and all credit goes to him. So I'm just trying to see how I have improved my sword and how I now can appreciate the sword in a much more internal way. Let's look at third Suburi. So I'm going to face this way because then you can see when I open up. So whether you pull the sword like this, and open up, or this, that's terrible. Don't tell. I know it's terrible. Or in Iwama, we simply did. We actually took this and we stepped forward. But I like the stepping back because it counters the forward motion of the sword. So it becomes the dual opposing thing. So if I move forward, I'm stepping back. I like that because it has this motion in both directions. So from here, stepping back. And be careful with the ceiling lamp. Here, point to the eyes. Now, when you do Suburi number 3, as you're coming back, placing your weight slightly on the back leg, you fold the sword, you draw yourself back, and at this point, when you step back, shoot this sword straight up. So now, it's not like in second Suburi, which the sword is in an angle, even though it's not much. This time, it's completely, if you can, completely straight up. So let me do that again. So you're here, you fold the sword, you shoot it straight up, and at this point, you breathe in conjunction with pushing it up. So you could breathe in, and you accentuate the vertical connection. Come back, I'll show that again. Don't breathe in at this stage. Here you're here, wait a little bit. Now, so you can feel the breath coming in as you push through the ceiling and the sky. Then you hold your breath and you relax your shoulders. You're still having the hami and the kamai forward. So don't turn your body. Don't roll your shoulder. Once you're up here, this is straight. You still have that kamai. You just drop the shoulders to your side here. So you still have that facing forward there. Here. Now in Iwama, we would drive it up in the same way where it came from, here, above the head, and then draw yourself forward and cut. Now I should take a full step forward, but because of the lack of space and the camera, I just changed feet. Here. Once again. Pull myself back with the back leg, fold up, shoot up. Now when I come up here, I breathe in now. And I breathe deeply into my lower back. Then when I lower this, I hold my breath. And in one way, I compress. This is like compress into your hara. Contact with my lower back. Contact in my inner arch, arch of the legs. And then I'll draw myself forward with the front leg as I come over. And cut, shoulder, straight shoulder. And I come back to kamai. So this is one cycle of breath. One cycle of breath for the whole thing. So once again, I breathe in. I hold my breath. I give the kiai, and I come back to kamai when I let the remaining air out. And I'm ready to start again. Yo. Yo. Just a small look at your hand grip. Back hand is in your hand. So your little finger falls over the end. Never leave it like this. Get used to this. Get used to this all the time. Front hand, 1 palm away. That should be your grip. Now, hold your hands on top. Both hands are on top. The way we do Yonkyo, the fourth technique in Aikido, the Yonkyo grip, same here. So the inside or your index finger knuckle is what we use when we apply Yonkyo on your partner's wrist. In the same way here, you want to have the support of the inside knuckle. This is being into the hand. There. Reach up. Legs, lower back, perineum, rib cage, hands, legs again. It's good exercise because sometimes when we have a weapon, our mind goes to the weapon, and sometimes we find ourselves overstretching, overreaching, because anything we handle, grab, our mind goes to, and that can throw us off from our center balance point. So there's always a good exercise if you do weapon practice by yourself to, for example, when you finish a cut, put the sword aside, put the sword to the side, like this, or so you don't want to disrupt your position, you can be like this, relax the arms, relax the sword, and check your posture. Is the posture fine without your weapon? So once again, so if you cut, relax the weapon, relax the arms, and see how your body is, and then reconnect from the ground up and find yourself again. When we do Kihon practice, we do it step by step. So you have pauses. These pauses, Saito Sensei emphasized with 1 second, 2 seconds, sometimes 3 seconds, because people were rushing instead of carrying the pause. Now, the pause is not just there to hang out and wait 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and then continue. It has a purpose, the pause. So, for example, I do first Suburi. Ich, Zan, Shin, lingering awareness. So I remain focused on what I have done and its effect afterwards. So if you have a ki, it's like and it opens. The ki hits and opens. Never shut it in and go inwards. So instead it's like and it opens. If you strike your bell, boom. The zanshin is the sound that carries until it dissipates. So when you have a cut, You expand afterwards. That's the Zanshin. You remain focused. Then when that has dissipated, then you have time to start again. That's Zanshin. So you have, that is a part of it. But the second part of the pose, because sometimes you, of course, in the poses you have Zanshin, but not only the lingering awareness that you are paying attention to what's going on, you're paying attention to your partner, but also itch. Now is the time to recheck your legs, your lower back, your perineum, your connection to the hands. So this is one moment where you have 2-3 seconds to suddenly return to check your connected body. Because when in the heat of emotion, when we start moving, you don't have time to keep in check your connected body. So in order to get it into our system, return to it, return to it, return to it. Because I noticed the moment I've done one thing, I have lost my back. So I have consciously had to bring myself back, to the legs, to the perineum, to the arms. I have to do that over and over again because I'm quite new at this. And I can see, for example, Dan Harden, he is walking in that, more or less. He's walking in that connected body state. And I think that has become second nature to him. And it's just part of his system. Now, this doesn't mean we're walking on eggshells and we are like highly strung. Not at all. One thing that I forgot to say about all this connectivity is about opening the joints. Opening the joints. Now, I'm a novice, like I said before. This is what I've been taught, and this is something I try to practice. Now, do I understand completely what that means? Possibly, probably not, compared to the people that are much more able than I am in this. And there are many that are. But the idea that you want to carry is not that you close the joints, you don't stiffen up, you don't rigid up, but in one way, you're opening the joints, enabling them to move. Because remember, when we come back to the no weapon part and we start doing these things, all the joints are supple. Now you're stretching through the joints, you're stretching, but you're not locking the joints up. So when you have you're moving, it's all connected. Connected, but supple and soft, yeah? So I think that will be it for today. I think that will be good enough to start with. So thank you very much.